The Return of the Indian by Lynn Reed Banks, Chapter 20, Invasion. He slept without dreams for 2 hours. Then something woke him. He lifted his head sharply. His mother hadn't closed the curtains, so a little light came in from the street. He felt strange, but he saw at once where he was and remembered why he was there. He was by no means ready to wake up, so why had he? Then he saw there was somebody in the room. Coming in, rather, through an open window facing the front garden, which shouldn't have been open. It was the sound of it opening and the draught of cold night air which had awakened him. Too bad they don't have, sounds like they don't have cans in front of the window like on Josephine would have had. He was peering over the arm of the sofa, which lay in deep shadow at the farthest end of the living room. He could see the clear silhouette of a male figure stealthily putting one leg in first and then the other over the sill, ducking his head under the half-raised window frame. A bare head, which gleamed dully in the diffused lamplight from beyond the high front hedge. For a second, Omri thought it was an Algonquin, but there was no scalp lock at the shaven skull. It was a skin head. No, not just one. Once in, the figure bent and beckoned. From the shadows outside appeared another and then another. One by one, they climbed silently into Omri's house. In a flash, they remembered last night. Was it only last night? When he'd come down to fetch Bright Stars and something to eat. He'd seen a hairless head go past the kitchen window and put it from his mind. That was at the end of one of the last, half dozen chapters or something. It was a while ago. It's really easy to miss that detail. Like, what was that? They must have been looking the place over, casing the joint, making plans for a time when the family would be out. Where was the babysitter? Normally she would be in here watching TV, but the set sat darkling in its corner. The intruders made towards it, laid hands on it. While one unplugged it and rolled up the cord, the other two lifted it between them. Would they try to take it out by the window? No. They carried it silently to the door. The cord holder opened it and they went out. Omri swung his legs swiftly to the floor and stood up, holding his breath. His heartbeat was extraordinarily steady. In fact, he felt calm and clear-headed. There was another door to the living room, and it was the one nearest the foot of the stairs. Moving across the carpet without a sound, he slipped out of the room and glanced toward the front door. It was open. The skinheads were going down the path, but they weren't ready to make off. They put the TV down in the front garden and just behind the hedge. Omri knew they would turn and come back for more. He took 2 swift steps to the stairs and raced up them silently, 2 at a time. He must phone the police. No, he couldn't. The only phone was in the hall. Well, he must do something. He couldn't just let them get away with it. It was bad enough they made his life miserable in Hubble Road without invading his territory, but the inescapable fact that they were years older than Omri and that there were 3 of them, they probably had knives. He reached his attic bedroom, out of breath, and opened the door as quietly as he could. He stopped. It was full of strange small lights and flickering shadows. The first thing he saw was Patrick, fast asleep on cushions on the floor. Then he noticed that the cupboard had been returned to the top of the chest, and so had the seed tray. There seemed to be a lot of activity going on in its much trampled earth surface. Omri moved forward to look closer. An astonishing scene met his eyes. The ruined longhouse had been turned into a sort of scratch hospital. Clean pages, evidently torn from a notebook, had been laid on the floor. In a double row with a walkway between their feet lay a number of wounded Indians. They appeared to have been well looked after. The ones Omri could see through the holes in the longhouse roof were bandaged and covered with warm blankets. Made of squares cut from Omri's sports socks, he recognized the stripes on the white toweling. Bright Stars was there, her baby tied to her back, moving among them with a bucket, giving them drinks. At either end of the building burned a small fire of matchsticks and shavings of candle wax, each tended by an unwounded Indian. Around the fires, wrapped in glove-finger sacks, more braves lay asleep. Omri's eyes went to a bright light at one end of the seed tray. The stub of the candle had been stuck into the earth and lit. Around it, muttering and chanting, Little Bear moved in a slow sort of dance. His shadow, hugely enlarged, was flung all over the walls of Omri's room, and the thin, weird wailing note of his chant struck Omri's heart with sadness. Here's a cool illustration of Little Bear dancing around the little candle stub there. Near the candle was the paddock. It was like a graveyard. Lay out on the grass were some small, still shapes covered with squares of white cotton blotted with drops of red. Omri counted them. There were 8. 8 out of 40. And all those injured? How? When had they ambushed the unsuspecting enemy with far superior weapons? It took only a few seconds for Omri to take this all in. Then, out of the depths of the longhouse, bustled a little figure in blue and white, with a tall, flowing cap. Well, she exclaimed when she saw him, here's a nice how-do-you-do. Call this a casualty ward? I'd rather be Florence Nightingale. She had it easy. Whoever let these poor simple fools loose with modern weapons ought to be shot themselves. What happened? Asked Omri, dry-mouthed. What was bound to happen? They were shooting each other. From what I can make out from their leader, they encircled the enemy, then blasted off from all sides, never realizing how far the bullets would travel. The shots that didn't hit an enemy were likely to hit an ally coming the other way. I fished so many bullets out tonight I could do it with my eyes shut. She bustled back to work, tut-tutting loudly. Omri bent and shook Patrick awake. Get up, we've got burglars downstairs. Patrick jerked upright. What? Skinheads, 3 of them. They must think the house is empty. They're going to clean us out, only they're not, because we're going to stop them. We are? How? Where are the guns the Indians had? They're in the cupboard. I think they've damaged a lot of them. We were mad. Ugh, where's that bag of British soldiers we had in the garden? Here, but you're not going, and where's Fickets? He's in with them. Omri was frantically emptying the paper bag into the chest. He found Fickets at once and almost threw him into the cupboard, remembering just in time to take the jumble of rifles, Tommy guns, and machine guns out first. He locked and unlocked the door, and in the next moment, Fickets was standing bewildered by the pile of guns. Corporal, check those weapons! Fickets, rubbing his eyes at once, came to it. Oh, it was not him talking, sorry. Corporal, check the weapons! Fickets, rubbing his eyes at once, came to attention and began disentangling what now appeared to be a pile of scrap. Omri, meanwhile, was putting handfuls of soldiers recklessly into the cupboard. Patrick was at his shoulder. You're crazy. You're always telling me not to. Shut up and bring me something flat. Like what? Omri turned on him fiercely. Use your head. Anything. A tray, a book. My loose leaf will do. Be quick. Patrick did as he was told. Omri closed the cupboard but didn't turn the key. Corporal. Yes, sir. How much ammo is left? Ammo, sir? More like how many working weapons. Them redskins have wreaked havoc, sir. Absolute havoc. I was afraid of this, sir. These are precision instruments, sir. They're not bloomin' bows and arrows. Never mind that now. I'm going to put you in charge of an operation, Fickets. Me, sir? Not Indians this time, British troops, and they're about to mount an attack on 3 people my size. Glad help us, sir. God help us, sir. How can we? Just do as I tell you, Corporal, and make them do as you tell them, okay? Fickets gulped noisily, then straightened himself. As long as most of them are Marines, sir, I expect we shall manage. Good man. Stand by to reassure them as they come out. No need for mollycoddling them, sir. The light's poor. I'll just tell them we're on night maneuvers. Omri turned the key in the lock and opened the door at once. He was glad the light in the room was dim. Patrick thrust Omri's large, flat, loose-leaf book in front of the cupboard, and out onto it poured 20 or 30 tiny khaki-clad figures. Some of them still had their weapons. Others, obeying Ficket's barking orders, began to man some of those the Indians had used. The room filled with the metallic sounds of weapons being loaded. Shall we use the big guns this time, sir, now that we've got the crews? Fickets asked Omri aside. Yes, marshal them all on here and tell the men to prepare for an all-out attack when you give the word. No trouble, sir. Just don't, he coughed. Don't thrust yourself forward, sir. They haven't spotted anything unusual yet, if you take my meaning. Patrick had caught the spirit of the thing and was feverishly sorting out every bit of hardware he could find in the biscuit tin and getting the cupboard and key to work on it. Soon the men, who were armed with the light arms, machine guns, portable anti-tank rockets, and even a bunker buster, a Millen missile, were in position, drawn up on 3 sides of a square with their backs to Omri. Though this was a formidable array, Omri did not feel even the faintest scruple. Fickets, he whispered. I'm going to transport you all. When you see your targets, give the order to fire at will. Sir. Don't worry, nobody's going to get hurt. You hope, muttered Patrick as they started down the darkened stairs.